Okay, hi, I am Tara Dunaway, and we also have Jenny Melchert presenting with us today, and we are talking about joint attention. So I am an early childhood special education teacher at Barfield Early Childhood for Winsville School District. My passion is autism, working with kiddos on the spectrum, or kiddos who display behaviors that are consistent with kiddos on the spectrum. So I'm lucky enough to work with Jenny Melchert. She is the SLP in my classroom. Jenny, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name is Jenny, and I have worked with Tara for a number of years. I also specialize in working with kids with autism spectrum disorder. I've been a speech pathologist for 15 years, so I bring some experience to the table of kids that I've worked with at various ages. So I'm excited to present tonight and share some knowledge.
All right. So one real quick plug for parents as teachers also. So parents as teachers, Addie's here from Parents as Teachers, but they're a wonderful program. Actually, they just came to my house the other night. So it's a free program, and I highly recommend to have them in your house and helping you with your kiddos. And it's just a different perspective on parenting your kiddo, finding out that your kiddo's not the devil, and that's actually like typical or strategies to work with your kiddo when they are like the devil. So, but anyway, Parents as Teachers is absolutely wonderful. So you can go to Winsville's homepage, and under schools all the way at the bottom, Parents as Teachers is located there, and it's very easy, a quick Google form to sign up. So anyway, I highly recommend that. So, all right, let's get started. Hopefully we do not have internet issues, but stay with us if you do. So, okay, so what is joint attention exactly? So we're gonna have a couple videos, a couple are of my personal children, some are from the internet, just really good resources that we found over the years. So here's our first one.
From a very early age, babies are able to focus their attention on new objects and situations around them. Starting at 3 months, their attention is already much more flexible. The infant may begin to alternate his gaze between an adult and an object which the adult has shown them. Thus, they begin to share experience with the adult based around an object. By 9 months, infants clearly understand that adults direct their gaze for a purpose, and therefore by following gaze, they can share experiences with the adult. Adults use various strategies to capture the infant's attention. For example, they can point to an object while saying, "Oh, look," but they can also draw the infant's attention to an object simply by looking fixedly at it. It is precisely these situations of shared attention which favour the infant's learning of language. It is important for adults to foster communicative situations in which adult and infant have a shared interest in a particular object or event. It is important for the adult to direct their attention at an object and then fix their gaze on it so that the infant can explore the object visually while listening to the adult's words.
So, joint attention. It's an early developing social communicative skill in which two people use gestures and gaze to share attention with respect to interesting objects or events in order to create experiences. So we saw a lot of that in the video. The video did a really great job of showing that connection, showing that the experience, and it can be very small experiences, just sharing a picture together, watching a ball fall out of something and looking and making sure that that child knows that you're looking at that, they're looking at that, and they're looking back at you. They're very early skills. They're very important foundational skills. So a joint attention deficit can impair a child's ability to make gains in the areas of cognitive, social, emotional, communication, and physical development. So here's a little video. These are of my boys. And it kind of shows you early on, my children don't wear a lot of clothes. So heads up, that might happen a couple times. So Gus was engaged with him. Gus is the baby.
You make him laugh again.
And so once the camera turned on, it was like, whoa, hold on. Graham's trying to get his attention again.
Graham, make Gus laugh, not Mama. Over there, get Gus again.
So you can see like no words are being exchanged whatsoever. No words. But that experience they're sharing together. And Graham will wait, and then Gus will wait through all of that with the anticipation that more is to come. This is a really great strategy that we'll talk about later. But it's incredible how young that does it can develop. And so you just see them, again, focusing on each other, what they were doing, and just waiting for more. You could see Gus just waiting and waiting and waiting through to see more from Graham. So Jenny, you want to go ahead on this one?
Yeah, so the next part of here, we're going to talk about the communication part of joint attention. Like Tara had mentioned, no words even need to be used when we're working on joint attention and engagement with our children. It's when one person alerts someone else to something going on. So it could be an object you're playing with. It could be a simple social game, just enjoying time with your kiddo, maybe tickling and then waiting until they respond so you can tickle again. So simple social games like that, or singing little songs and waiting for their reaction. But all the things that those activities working on joint attention, they're all a prerequisite for being able to communicate. If we're not engaged with others around us, then you can't become an effective communicator. So there are some children that lack joint attention, do have some words in their vocabulary, but they're not effectively able to use those words to communicate with others in regards to their wants and needs. So it's a foundational skill is what we call it, because it's needed before we can really develop into an effective communicator.
So this next video, we always put out this disclosure. It is an insanely old video, so it is not PC, but it really does a wonderful job of showing you the difference in a real life situation and comparing a neurotypical kiddo with a kiddo who is on the autism spectrum. So, it does a nice job of showing you that, but just keep that in mind. It is not politically correct at all. So.
You want to play with?
Sigmund measured joint attention in the responses of 3 different groups of children to various stimuli. Normal babies, children with Down syndrome, and children with autism.
Very nice.
Children with autism don't pay much attention to the attention patterns of other people. They don't really look at where other people are looking. It doesn't seem to occur to them that other people have points of view that can be shared. And so they seem very isolated in that sense.
In a similar experiment, Sigmund studied the reactions of children to someone else's pain. It takes a normal baby only a few seconds to realize that someone is hurt. Children with Down syndrome respond readily to the emotions of others. But someone else's distress doesn't seem to touch a child with autism. It's as though emotions are a foreign language he can't interpret. Reacting to other people's fear is a basic survival instinct.
Best part of the video. Look.
They tell us they have feelings. Their parents tell us they have feelings. This is another place in which I think our current research shows that the previous understanding of autism was wrong. Their heart rate responses are no different from those of mentally retarded children who are at the same developmental level.
Sorry.
So I think that they very much have feelings, but they have a very hard time explaining these feelings to themselves or expressing them in ways that other people can understand.
So, like we said, not PC, but it does such a wonderful job of showing you real life examples. Just that, especially that fear component of just there was not that like awareness of, oh, she's scared, I should be scared. You think of like when you're with your kiddos and that safety concern of it being in a parking lot, having cars drive past, running from you, all of those things. That kind of makes a little bit more sense because they're not making those connections that that's a dangerous situation or that they should feel a certain situation, for a certain way in a certain situation. So, okay, so what skills are needed for proper joint attention? So orienting and attending to a social partner. So your body, we talk about that a whole lot. So whole body listening is showing that you're listening with your eyes, with the way that your body is facing. You wouldn't go listen to somebody speak at a presentation and turn your back on them. So showing with your whole body and attending to a partner. So shifting gaze between people and objects. You kind of saw that with the robot. They would look at the robot and then look back at the teacher or staff lady and like, am I safe? Is this okay? That checking in is a lot of times what we call that. So sharing emotional states with another person, following the gaze and point of another person, that is very difficult to be able to do that if you do not have a really great foundation with joint attention skills. So, and then being able to draw another person's attention to objects or events for the purpose of sharing experiences. And this sounds really big and it's not, it's literally everything we do on a daily basis. So this next example is my son again. I believe he's in a diaper again, no clothes on. But this is a great one. These are some simple things that you can do at home with just stuff that you have around your house. But you can see the engagement part of this. So it's bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is wonderful. Yep, I was right. He's a diaper.
Do it again. Do it again.
So he'll do it and then he'll look at me like, yeah, this is so cool, isn't it? This is totally cool. And then, you know, in the beginning, and then there's another part later where he looks at me too, like, because I can't get it to work. So that's also using that joint attention when, you know, you're in
step on it again.
Where
Look.
even if you're nonverbal, you're using by checking in and going, I can't make this work. Help me make this work. So, little sidetracked, you know. But anyway, so that's an easy way to work on that, because any activity like that where it keeps going, they want more. Wine toys are great because they'll watch it and then they can't get it to go again. So then it's like they need you. And so they might look at you, they might bring it to you, but either way, they're knowing you're there, and then that's a perfect opportunity for you to share an experience together. So, okay. Why is joint?
I was going to say too, what Tara was talking about back on that other slide, you don't need any special toys to work on joint attention. And the best thing you can do is follow your child's lead. So if it's bubble wrap, it's bubble wrap. If it's crunching up paper, then crunch up paper. If they like to rip paper because it makes a funny sound, do that. It doesn't matter what it is. It's really about being connected with your child and building those skills. And they build these skills by making that connection with you. You're their main person right now while they're little in the home. And so you have a huge role in their life. So anything that they're interested in, follow their lead. You don't have to go buy anything special to work on any of this that we're talking about.
100%. Yeah. And like even just crawling on the floor and stopping and checking in and hide and seek and all those things. So that's awesome. Thank you. So this kind of breaks down the different areas and it kind of shows you why joint attention is important in some of these areas. So do you want to do the first one, Jen, and I'll do the second one?
Sure. We look at fine motor development. It's really important that for things like cutting, lacing, writing, that they have to be able to attend to the activity. And so when your eye contact is all over the room and you're not looking and you're not attending to the activity, it becomes very difficult to complete, especially a fine motor activity. So when we're talking fine motor, we're talking about using your hands to complete an activity. So those little motor control, using utensils is another one that requires a lot of attention to what you're doing. And if that joint attention is not there, it significantly impacts those skills. And it becomes even more important when we enter the preschool classroom and the kindergarten classroom. A lot of the day for kids this age is revolved around cutting, gluing, coloring. So if they're unable to attend to the task, it makes it very difficult to get through their school day. And it makes their school day that much more taxing for them and emotionally draining. The second one is gross motor development. So those are our big motor skills: running, jumping, playing, pedaling a bicycle, playing tag, jumping over an object. Again, that joint attention, that connection is so important. If you're playing tag with a friend and you're not watching the friend, it's really hard to keep the game going. And so when we look, again, it kind of ties in here with the social aspect of joint attention. If you're not aware of what your friends are doing, it's going to be really hard to form friendships. So gross motor, I always think friendships, I think playground, because if you're catching a ball, you need another person to do that. If you're not paying attention, the ball's going to hit you in the face. You can't complete that activity. Sequencing the pedaling of a bicycle, you've got to pay attention to what you're doing and really be engaged in that, or you're going to fall off your bike. So all of those require so much attention to the task and engagement, and just to get through. Sorry, losing my words today. And then the last one, my big area here is the language development. So with that increased joint attention, kids can then attend to vocabulary cards or stories or picture cues, those kind of things in a therapeutic setting. We're looking for language development inside and outside of the therapy room. That's that foundation, that turn taking and the joint attention and pointing and gesturing and playing. I'd say those are the foundation, the bottom of your house as you're building up your language. Those have to be solid. It's very hard to work on any language skills other than joint attention until it's more established. Otherwise, I have kiddos who are all over the room and they're just into everything and they're not looking and they're not attending and they're not learning. So getting a child to form that relationship with me sometimes takes months, but that is so huge in their development on how far they get in therapy.
Well, and I really feel like when we get to that point, that's when you just start seeing all the areas take off, you know?
So true. Oh, yes.
Like, because it's a lot of time invested in that relationship part that Jenny's talking about. But man, once that happens, you just see explosions. And
you see all those things clicking together. Yeah. And then you get to see, so much. They start figuring out their world. When that joint attention and connection piece isn't there, the world is happening around them and they're just in it. They're not really experiencing all the things that are going on in the classroom and going on at home. And they're just going through the motions of you pulling them, taking them, telling them what we're doing next. Joint attention just is so important for them to be part of all the experiences that are going on.
Absolutely. So this video is one of our past kiddos. And this just kind of shows you, it's a great example of fine motor development. This was more towards the end of the year, because we always joke, Jenny's favorite thing sarcastically in my room is cutting, because it's dangerous.
Yes, true.
My kiddos in my morning are really working on developing those joint attention skills. And so cutting, you might lose a finger sometimes. So, but just shows you. So now that you are a little bit more aware of, okay, this is what joint attention is, stay focused watching this video and go, holy cow. Yeah, you definitely need all of these things in place for that simple activity. That's what we consider it, right? You're cutting on a line. How hard is that? Okay, let's look at it now and go, oh, wow, there's so much that is required just to be able to do this activity.
You're gonna write it in this. Good job, Grant. Keep going. I have the number 7, but you're gonna write the number 4. I can't.
You can see his mouth is groping, like he is really trying. He's working hard, staying focused on what he's doing.
I did too. No, I did too.
He's shifting gaze back and forth between his
Reese,
left
keep
hand
going.
and his right hand to make sure, okay, that's right. I have to hold my paper with
You
my
did
left
say
hand.
nice words to her.
If not, it's gonna go everywhere.
Good job.
So those simple tasks that we're talking about, they're so difficult if your kiddo does not have proper joint attention skills. Everything is hard. Everything. So it's very easy for them to retreat back to their world instead of, like Jenny was talking about earlier, just sharing the world with us. It's just easier to go into their own little world. So
Yeah, I'll keep going on this one. So speech development, when we talk speech development, that's actually the articulation of speech sounds. So I get that question quite a bit with my job. So language is a big part of what I do, but then I also have kids that need help with speech sounds. So that's our articulation. And it is not possible to even work on speech development until kids have joint attention skills. So I always say, the basic communication, those joint attention skills, that connection is the big fish, because if I can't get a child to even look at me and be part of my world, there's no way I can get them to attend to my mouth to see how I form a sound in order to do what I've asked them to do. And so that is a big one. So again, joint attention is going to be important, because down the road, if we have some speech stuff going on, or if I'm just trying to teach them things. So that kind of leads into the next one. Social emotional development is super, super huge for our kids across the board. We have to be able to teach them to tune into not only us, but their peers. If they're not paying attention to what their peers are doing, they're not going to pick up on the other cues. Oh, look, everybody got up off the carpet. I should be lining up now. Oh, my friend is sad. What do I do when they're sad? Do I even notice they're sad? That's so important to get them to make that connection and understanding feelings and what's going on with those around them. Like in the video, if someone is scared that's right next to you, you should also probably be having some fear and knowing what's going on and how do I keep myself safe. So it all ties into that, being able to really pay attention to what's going on. And when I get at a higher level of social emotional learning, Tara and I work so much with kids on paying attention to my face. How do I feel? Well, if you're not paying attention to whatever goes on with my face, it's going to be really hard for me to teach you emotions. And when you feel those emotions, if you really don't care to ever look at me. So these foundational skills are so important for us to keep developing and growing, and talking about not only emotions, but then friendships, because friends are the most important thing a kiddo can have to carry them through their school. You need a friend to get by is kind of how we look at it. We tell our kids. So cognitive development, joint attention skills are necessary for kids to attend to all classroom activities. So that cognitive or pre-academic skills, listening to stories, listening to circle time, and doing all of those things all through their school day, they have to have some sort of attention to what's going on, to what their peers are doing, what their teacher's doing. So that's another huge part. So you can see it really affects every single aspect of their entire day.
Yeah, I was going to say what Jenny was talking about with the faces, paying attention to their peers. Like when we're really looking at that social emotional development. So let's say they don't have proper joint attention skills and we're trying to teach them, okay, so in this situation, your peer is feeling this way. This is how you react. So if they're not even paying attention, they're not there. They're not going to be there to judge. So how can you be a good friend if you're not tending to your friend? And so also a lot of our kiddos have sensory concerns. And so when you've got kiddos who have no body awareness, like those kids who you can walk into a movie theater and every seat is open besides the one between two people and they go sit right there. On the carpet, there's tons of open spots and they sit on top of someone. So it's great. Like we need to teach our kiddos to be aware, like, oh, they're making this face and this face means you might need to back up, or at least alert them that something is not right. And then we can kind of work through it with language. But if they're not even tuned in to see that this part's not right, they're not even going to know to start having those conversations, and they're going to, it's going to be harder to keep those friends. So I did want to say that it does, and Jenny talked about it earlier, it takes so much patience and time. So just know that this, when we're looking at kiddos with joint attention deficits, like it's not a quick fix, it's not. So as much as you can include it in your day, if you're doing the dishes, if you're doing anything in your life, literally everything can be a joint attention activity. So the more that you're just pouring on them, the better it's going to be, the faster they're going to develop those skills. So, okay, so I have a video of a kiddo who, this was kind of like his wow, look at all of you moment. It was very cool. He came pretty far, pretty fast as far as like in circle time and things like that. But you can just kind of see like he used to be hyper focused on one teacher, that's it. And you can start to see him like looking around and how exciting that is.
Glad to see me too. Ready? Nod your head and show you're glad to see me too. Shake, 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 shake. Stomp, 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 stomp. Clap your hands and show you're glad to see me too. Bum, 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 bum. Yay!
So, typically, not always, but typically those, the joint attention skills start happening with teachers before they do with other students. We are the ones working so hard to engage with them relentlessly. And so a lot of times, we're their go-to person. So it's such a beautiful moment when you start seeing them look like at, oh, look, this kiddo's doing the same thing that I'm doing. This kiddo's doing the same thing. Oh, they're being silly. I can be silly too. Like it's a beautiful thing when that starts to happen, because again, it's like opening a door to just endless possibilities for kiddos once they start seeing that, like, wait, there are other people in this world, and I enjoy those people. So, okay, how can I help my child? So, this is really what it comes down to, so you've identified that okay, joint attention is a concern. What can we do about it? So hand over hand teaching, that's literally what it sounds like. It is a lot of times when my kiddos are starting, especially with fine motor activities, that is probably what I see the most. Is it is literally my hand over top of their hand doing an activity. So they're holding the scissors. My hand is helping hold the scissors in place in their hand, and we're cutting together, helping them glue something on, helping them put something up on the wall. Whatever we're doing, it's hand over hand. So that can be done at home. That can be done in all environments. So helping them get dressed so that they're feeling more empowered to, you help them help themselves. Taking the child's hand and helping him or her touch items in both of your sites. So just again, anytime you can make those connections, you're touching them. So that's an instant connection, but then draw it in with with the eye contact or a quick gaze and those types of things. Manipulate items that you are manipulating. So just like really looking at things, getting them to build with you, all of those things. But like Jenny said earlier, it's really important to meet them where they're at. So when you have something that's difficult for them, let's say that it's going to be very trying, very hard for them, you can bring something else into it to make it a little bit more fun. Like if you're stacking blocks and they really can't stand stacking blocks, you bring the zoo animals into the blocks and help make it a more fun experience for them. But use less words and more play. This is huge, 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 huge. Follow the child's lead. And we always say that's super hard. We're the adults. We want to be in mode all the time and telling them what to do and things like that. But following their lead is going to be your best avenue with building that relationship, but also seeing what's important to them. And that you're not just trying to take things away from them, you're joining them where they're at.
Yeah, I didn't think I was on that note. It's so hard for kids at a young age, for so many kids with a language delay, autism or not, they need time to process language. And we are all guilty of asking them to do something or say something, and then ask them again, and then ask them again. And they need time to process, partly because they're younger. That's part of developing. They've got so many things that are changing right now. They're growing in so many ways. But when you add a learning disability of maybe a language disorder, they're not developing language at the same rate, or they do have a diagnosis such as autism, they must have more time to process your demands, anything you're placing on them, or during play. When you bombard them, it's overwhelming. They're still thinking about the first thing you asked, and you've already asked 5 more things. So it's so helpful for your child if you slow down, and you don't have to simplify your language, but just bring it down to where you're not over talking and you're not overly asking them to perform. We know with everything about language development, say this is not the way to ever get your child to talk. It's about being silly and fun. And the more excitement you bring to the activity, the more they're going to want to repeat you. I've never in my career had success getting kids to say stuff when I say this. Not only that, it's weird. It's weird. Nobody goes around asking you to say things all day. So as a parent, don't fall in that trap. So we know that that's not how language develops. Language develops because you say something and you said it really fun, so I really want to say it. And that is exactly how it's going to happen. So playing with them and not worrying about asking them so many questions and bombarding and overwhelming them. If you kind of put yourself in their shoes, I couldn't imagine a kid the way some kids are just bombarded with language, how overwhelming that would be if someone said, hey, do you want to go to Walmart? Do you want to go to Walmart? Hey, get your shoes on. Do you want to go? And you're like, you would lose your mind. And then that's when we see our kids have behaviors and I don't know why they're sad. Well, they don't have a way to tell you that you're overwhelming them. So it's so important to step it back with the demands and really spend time on that relationship piece and limiting the language. But like Tara said, it can be hard because we all like to talk. So
a lot of times when we're starting out, because the limiting language is so huge, sometimes we're just making silly noises. Like you're taking because that draws them. Kids love a good crazy noise. They just do. The more annoying, the more it draws them in. Like it's natural, so you might be walking your, let's say, zoo animals. You have your gorilla and you're like, "Meh, meh, 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 meh." That they're like, wait, what's happening? But that is something that they're so much more likely to imitate. It's just a simple sound versus you're telling them, oh, I'm going to go climb up here and I'm going to eat this and I'm going to do this. Like that all is great as that progresses, but those early stages, noises and things like that, again, you're just trying to get them to want to be a part of your world and you jumping into the world. So
yeah, that's a great example, Tara. I have something in my room called a Chatterbox. So it's just a container and it has random items in it. So we definitely have a train. And when I play with the train, I say choo, choo. And then my car goes vroom. My duck says quack. So I'm not labeling everything. I'm making sounds. So it only has items in there where it's an easy sound. So a frog, I can go hop, 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 or I can do ribbit. Literally finding just toys. It could even be McDonald's toys or whatever you can think of and putting it in a box is a great way. Kids love a box of stuff. And yes. I get so much imitation out of that. It is my go-to for so many of my kids that I work with. So that's a great thing you could make with a bin for $1 from the Dollar Tree. And then that can be your special bin. If you pick items that can go in water, kids love water. So put those toys, they can go in the bath, they can go in a bowl of water. It's too cold to go outside. Let's bring the fun and water play inside. And then those things can be dried out if they're waterproof things. But like I said, that's a great example, Tara, because that's something I use in my therapy all the time with kids and they love it. Even kids that come to see me, but that are very verbal and working on different skills, love to play with the little toys that are in that box. It's so fun. So it's a great example.
So we talk about reinforcing joint attention. It's not naturally reinforcing. So let them know, I love how you're looking at me. Again, be mindful of your audience, be mindful of developmentally where they're at, but especially as your kiddos are getting older, like our kiddos that we're working with in the afternoon, we're pointing out the great things that they're doing with the engagement part so that they know, so that they can do it again. So definitely do that. And just know a lot of times in the beginning, joint attention itself is not rewarding for kids. You have to make it rewarding. So keep working on it. But repetition is huge. And repetition is huge for everything. So I mean, I even think about just basic things like our curriculum at school. A lot of times it's like we read one book and we're done with it. Kids need to hear stuff over and over to really grasp it. So that's in every single area, so repetition is really important. And that's when you're going to see some progress. If you are literally changing it up every single time, how are you going to know, oh, wait, last time they were able to imitate 2 things. Now they're able to imitate 4. If you're switching it every single time, it might be a little bit harder to track some of that progress. So just keep that in mind. So
I've been real fast, Tara. Sorry.
Yeah.
What you said was really great about the reinforcing. Be real mindful when you're working with your child on this skill that you're reinforcing the behavior that you were proud of. So it's very common to, oh, good job. That was great. Good job. Good job. Well, they don't really know what they did good. So when I'm doing an activity where I'm really looking to try to get the kids' attention and they look at me, I say, oh, I love when you look at me. Tell them that. They have to know what you're proud of. If we just say good job, they don't really know what you're after. It really doesn't have a lot of meaning. So as an educator and as a therapist, I try to catch myself from ever saying that and always identifying what it was that they did that made me super proud. So that goes for joint attention or for any activity. Being very intentional with your reinforcement helps your child grow and learn so much more than just telling them great job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, even with neurotypical kiddos, I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
amazing
sure.
how much, if you literally just said, oh, that was awesome. And then you ask them what exactly was awesome, how many times they could actually tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So true.
Awesome. Super good point. Our one thing, big thing is waiting. We talked about it earlier. Waiting is so hard, but like Jenny was saying, that processing time, you have to allow for it, and you have to allow for natural things to happen. It's something that, let's say you've been working on that repetition. You can go, let's say Jenny has her frog and she's like, hop. And it's really weird and it's really uncomfortable, but it's amazing when they're like, hop, and they finish it for you. Give them the opportunity to have those things happen. Give them the opportunity. Tickling is like literally the best joint attention thing ever. If your kiddo's into that, not all kiddos are. So know your kid, know what works for them. But tickling's wonderful because actually, I think there's a video coming out, but you're tickling and then you wait and you stop and you wait, and you're smiling. So like you're still keeping the buildup going, that anticipation for them. And they're like, is it, and then you go in again, but wait for it. Wait for them to look at you. Wait for them to move their body, like facing you, whatever it is. Just be super mindful of their body, your body, and then how they're tuning into you. So waiting is so hard, but it is so important. Super, super important. Okay, so this next short little video is one of my favorite videos ever. And so it's two of our kiddos, and it's really shows you the power of peers. So once you have kiddos who that joint attention is coming along and they are driven by peers, which just, that is when Jenny and I are like, like it's the best thing ever. Because for a peer to be reinforcing to another peer, like it's just, that's what you want, and so PEX is Picture Exchange Communication System. So it is a way for early learners with their language to start. You can exchange pictures. It's a whole system. It's not always, but typically nonverbal kiddos when they're starting off. But it's a way for them to communicate their wants and needs, for their communicative partner to know what they're wanting. So you'll kind of see. So we've got Peyton and Lily. And they're really good buds, like really, really good buds. And she's kind of like a mama hen. And he is exchanging a picture, and the picture is tickles. Peyton loved a good tickle. And so Lily does such a fantastic job. So just kind of watch this. Oh, I love this video.
Tickle, tickles.
Oh, that's his textbook right there.
Okay, all done tickles.
Put the card back.
Everybody here comes to play.
All right, Lily, now just don't say anything this time. Let's let Peyton do it all by himself.
She's waiting patiently.
Good job, tickles.
And you see his hand, like he's like, oh, it's coming.
All right.
He's so excited.
Who's working over here? Who's sponsoring these?
So one thing that's really important is to look at this is so many times, and a lot of teachers will say this to Jenny and I, they'll say, oh, their eye contact is so poor. So Jenny and I don't really get hung up on eye contact. Eye contact's wonderful. But also just know that there can also be other reasons why it can be uncomfortable for them. It can physically hurt them. So there could be many, many reasons why eye contact is not happening. What I focus and what Jenny focused on more is Peyton's body was present in their little exchange there, but he's facing her. He is in it to win it with her. It didn't matter. I don't think he never once looked her right in the eyes to get what he wanted, but he was there. He was present for it.
The intent was there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one other thing we talk about is it's weird. Like have you ever like had a conversation with someone who's like a hardcore starer? Like, it's like, okay, this is it's uncomfortable. It is natural to not just stare at somebody the whole time. I mean, I even find myself like doing these videos and I'm like, oh, am I looking the right way? Like, it's uncomfortable, So people get really, really hung up on that. And we don't as much, because the idea is, are they getting what we want out of that activity? And if the answer is yes, then it's a success. That's what we're wanting there. So do you have anything about that, Jen, or?
No, that's great. That's great.
Okay. So on my notes, I did put use items that are of high interest, but not ones that a child is obsessed with. So that's a huge thing. Be very mindful, because if it is something that is so reinforcing to them that you are not going to be able to get it away from them or back from them, or at the end of it, like, oh, we're never recovering from this, your whole interaction then is ending on a bad note. Everything is ending in a negative place, and that's not what you want. So really keep that in mind with those. Everybody has them. Every kiddo, even neurotypical kiddos, have those highly, highly reinforcing things. Just be mindful of that. So that may not be the thing that you're really going to work on sharing an experience with them, if you will. So, and one other thing I say is, and you might be able to tell because I got a lot here, but I always say I'm a saleswoman. In preschool, when you're working with this age, and then especially with the population that I work with, I always say I'm always selling something, because the more interested I am in something, the more interested they become in it. So it literally can be like Jenny talked about a box earlier. That's so powerful to kids. You could put anything in there and it could be anything. So you're holding it and you're like, oh, whoa. So you're building all of that up, and it literally could be your patterning cards. Like, I mean, it does not have to be anything crazy, but you're wanting the buy-in from them. That's what I'm always wanting from my kids. I'm wanting that buy-in, that commitment to be like, yep, I'm in it with you. Let's do this, whatever it is, so always think that. And if you've got kiddos who are lacking joint attention, you cannot be a flat person, because you need to get them to really pay attention to people's faces. And if they're not already naturally picking up on those things, you got to step up your game. So it's just what it is. So, all right, Jen, you want to do this one?
Sure. So we have some ways that you can help your child with joint attention. We've given quite a few examples throughout, but being a good language model. So I always say, you can simplify your language, just don't simplify it to where it changes the grammar of what you're saying. So for example, if I'm playing with a pen, I would say, oh, it's a pen. And then if they said pen, I'd, oh, purple pen. Oh, look, and we talk about it. But I still am using the correct order of the way I'm saying things. I'm not dumbing down the language. I'm not changing the grammar. I'm meeting them where they're at. So your kiddo best. And so just kind of go with their cues. You want to make sure they're understanding the language that you're using, and you're not overwhelming them in that time that you're working with them. Using gestures such as pointing along with eye gaze to show where you're focusing. So a way to work on that's an important, that eye gaze and the pointing. So I always tell parents, work on things that are close. I can point like, so you guys can't see my desk, but like there's a little book right here sitting on my desk. So I might point to it and look, and so we can both look at it, and then they shift their eye gaze, and then we work on pointing close. So working on pointing in the beginning, it's that close pointing. Then you can work on that far pointing, and it can be whatever. It can be the lamp over the dining room table, like look at the light, and trying to get them to look with you, and then you can show them how they can isolate their finger and point. So that's a great way to work on it. I always tell parents, use whatever's in the house, and it can be, again, if you're the salesperson, it can be so fun. And then when you go outside, what kid doesn't love to point at the moon? It's so amazing when you can see the moon. So it's just something that's naturally reinforcing. So that's the way I work on that, is just by pointing at things that are already in the environment. Tara touched on this before, that hand over hand teaching. Kids don't learn when you do things for them. That just shows them you know how to do it. That's great. They already knew that. So that hand over hand is so important. And that's even sometimes in the classroom when we say it's time to clean up and the kids don't want to do it, or they're not paying attention, we say, okay, we're cleaning. And then we do the handover, and I help them manipulate their hand, like, oh, you put it in. And then we learn. And it's so fun at school to see kids who in the beginning, it might be a meltdown over something like putting toys away, cleaning up. And then when they start getting it, it's like that giddy moment that we love, because they're starting to understand, like, oh, that's what we all do. And they're learning through that, whether it's, cleaning up and it's that time with you together, you're teaching them, but you're also, when you're talking, putting items in, you're teaching them that preposition, that they need to understand what in means in order to follow a direction that has that in it. So they're learning all the time when they're interacting with you. But guiding them with that hand over hand shows them that you're there to help them. And then we talked about this quite a bit. So following the child's lead, so what they're interested in. I think we're going to touch on that in a little bit of slides ahead. I always give the cautious, be so careful with technology. When kids have an iPad, they aren't in your face for a little bit, whether you are starting the dishes. And I get it. I'm a mom. My kids were little at one point. So it gives you a few minutes, whether it's a show or whether it's a tablet, but to engage and work on these things we're talking about, technology should be put away. I don't know any kid that wants me in their business when they're on a tablet. They're playing and they will learn skills on there, but they're not learning how to socialize. And joint attention is all about socializing and being part of something with another person. So if your face is in the tablet, it's not going to happen. And kids get very possessive really quick of technology. And I see those interactions and relationships fall apart with technology. So following your child's lead, but be so careful that it's not with that technology, just good old fashioned toys, just playing. So I think we'll touch on that technology in a little bit, but
yes,
that's that following the lead.
So here's a quick little video.
Here are some tips. Your child will benefit from less structured natural interactions. Your child will learn best through play and natural interactions such as feeding and bathing. Get down to your child's level. Be face-to-face. Use an animated voice with exaggerated facial expressions. Imitate your child's facial expressions, sounds, words, and actions. Use toys or objects that your child finds interesting or motivating. Children under 2 years of age enjoy cause and effect toys. Observe your child and wait to see what he's interested in. Follow your child's interests by labeling objects and actions using single words or short phrases. Sing to your child. Hey, look at me. Show your child books, turn the pages, and point to pictures.
Bubbles are like one of the most amazing things ever. I was trying to think of like when we're talking about some of our awesome, cheap little things, bubbles are, I don't know if I've ever had a kid who didn't really like bubbles. So bubbles are pretty.
Very reinforcing, yes.
They are. So one thing she did say that was super important was getting down on the kiddos level is really important. Like if we're expecting them to, like when we were talking about gesturing and noticing those things, if your kiddo is, I mean, 2.5 feet shorter than you are, and you're expecting them to look up to you, then lock on your face. Like, you need to be present with them at their level so that they can really see you. So just be mindful of that. That's it's really important. And again, that's for all kiddos. So oh, and I did like how they talked about using joint attention in just your daily routines. Like Jenny said, with the prepositions, learning in and things like that. All of those are very important when you're looking at oh, there go my words. Routines. Like your routines are so important. And so you're teaching them their routines at the same time. You're praising them for what they're doing, but you're sharing that experience together. So just be mindful of that. So, okay. So these are super simple ways. So row your boat is awesome. It's very easy to do. You can, if you have other, if your child has other siblings, it's a great way to like have them share an experience with their siblings as well. And it's got some like a nice sensory component too for like our kids who really like that crash, that like intense like bear hugs and running and all that kind of stuff. So if they sit, never done this over a computer, this is kind of awkward, sorry guys, but like they sit face to face, they could sit crisscross applesauce, knee to knee, they grab hands and they pull, and you just go row your boat. Naturally, their face is already looking in the direction of their peer, but they'll start to see like, oh, she's smiling. Oh, I feel this way. So anyway, that's a great activity. When I'm looking, these are higher ones, but this is something I use in my afternoon a lot. I'll say, when I'm looking at you, it'll be your turn. So guess what? They are not going to know that it's their turn unless they're looking at me. So I might be dismissing kids from the carpet. I might be at home. You could be picking whoever gets to go brush their teeth first, or whoever gets to pick the movie out for the night, or anything like that. But I will literally just close my eyes and I'm like, sometimes I make crazy noises because again, it's helping draw them in, because you don't want to just do it in a second and be done. You need that processing time. You need to draw them in, sell them. That's what we're doing. So I'm like, oh, I go, and I might lock right in on a kiddo, and I wait, staring at them. Sometimes I'll get but usually they'll lock right, and they're like, it's me! Like they're so excited. And they just feel like they won the Price is Right. So it's great. But again, that was just a moment over something very, very simple. So bring an item close to your face. Jenny's really great at this. So let's say they like items and they totally aren't sold on you yet. So you bring the item that they love, like a pen. We keep using pen, Jenny. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. We could use the sanitizer. That's like so super COVID times, right? What else is on my desk? Where's my math?
Bringing that pen in that they're loving, and they might be stemming off of displaying self-stimulatory behaviors, like woo, tapping it, whatever they're doing. Draw it in and put it close to your face, and you're like, yeah, but you're showing them that you are there and you're checking in with them. So we talked about the waiting, and waiting some more. So super important with everything you do. Now, know your kid also. I mean, don't do it until they're at their breaking point. So, but just know, like, you're just gonna push them just a little bit more just to see if you can get that. Maybe you've done it 5 times, the past couple of days and it hasn't worked, but guess what? It might work the 6th time. That might be the time where they're like, oh yeah, we've been doing this. And if I just look at her, it's going to work, or, whatever it is. So just don't sell them short. So pausing in the middle of a song, So that one is a good one, especially if it's like ABCs. So a lot of our friends, they do not like things to be left unfinished, which who does? That's weird. I don't
That
typically.
works with neurotypical children as well. Anyway,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Right.
You stop singing, they're going to finish it. It's a great
Right.
way to get them to use language without saying, say this, right?
Absolutely. But it might take that second to wait for it, and you just wait. But most of the time it will happen. Or they'll make utterance, or they will look at you. And sometimes that's all you're looking for. They're look like, yep, keep going. Yep. Because maybe they were looking all over, but then they focused in on you. That's a win. Withholding items. So withholding items we use that constantly. And it's a hard one just because it kind of looks like you're being mean. But withholding items, think about it. You're withholding something that they want. So like snack is a great opportunity for this. You're withholding it until whatever your expectation is, whether that's them communicating with you, whether that's them just looking in your direction, whether that's them just joining you at the table. So, okay, these are all different levels of attention skills that we're at, but whatever that is, withholding items, that can be very powerful for kiddos. But just like when Jenny had said earlier, to make sure when you're reinforcing that you're reinforcing with the desired behavior, like with what they did, correct? Make sure when they do get that item that you're withholding, make sure it's the timeliness of it. It happens right when they do what you are wanting. So whether it's them joining you at the table, it's like, oh, yes, you came over, here's your notepad or whatever. Like, whatever. So you're getting another opportunity to tell them what they did great on, okay? Because we're not just telling them great job. So you're getting to let them know what they did, and you're giving it to them at the same time. So it's like bombardment of this is amazing and this is what I need to keep doing if I want these results. So take their hand to your face. I use this a lot in my morning because it just sometimes just that human connection. There's just something that skin to skin that can really help focus that attention. So picture requesting. So we have pictures all over our rooms. And those are wonderful. And that's a great strategy at home. And they literally, mine are fancy because I use them over and over and over with multiple kids that I need to be able to wipe down. Yours don't have to be fancy. You could literally cut pictures out of, off of Google or out of magazines, but it can off the box of the goldfish, but it can be that, but them bringing you that picture, that right there is them communicating with you. And again, sharing an experience, and they're going, hey, instead of me getting my own goldfish and climbing all the way up the pantry like they used to do, they're bringing this to you. They know that you exist. They know that you're going to help them get what they need. So
simple at home. If you don't, I Miss Tara said, we have everything Velcroed and laminated here. Of course it's bubbles because those need to be handy right away. But at home, when my kids were little, I use contact paper. So that's just a little easy thing. You can even find that at Dollar Tree, and that'll just hold your pictures up a little longer. So, because young kids especially love to crumple things. It's just super reinforcing. So the contact paper will save you some printing. So just a little thing I used when my kids were little.
Yes, thank you. High fives and moving your hand. Again, you literally just need a hand to do it. So it's really awesome. And we do it all the time. And it's hilarious. They think it's so funny, but they'll come out, yeah, oh, ooh, oh, whoa, and I move it around. Well, guess what? They can't just swat at you to have a meaningless high five. It then all of a sudden takes this like, yep, I'm reinforcing you for what you just did, which was super great. So there's a bonus number one. And then number two, I just turned this into a fun game where they have to, tune into you to be able to give you a high five. Most kids want a high five. So countdowns. countdowns are great when you're looking at kiddos struggling with transitions. Transitions are hard. Okay, so I'm a big believer in not springing things on people. Jenny actually is the one who taught me this, and I really hadn't thought about it until she said it one day, and she was like, yeah, like you might have this whole plan in your head, but that doesn't mean that your kiddo knows. So like if Graham, we'll use Graham as an example. If I just come home and I'm like, all right, Graham, let's get shoes on. And he's in the middle of watching a show or building a Lego tower or whatever it is, but he's in the middle of doing something. And I spring it on him that all of a sudden right now in this second, he needs to go get his shoes on and we're running out the door. Okay. As adults, we would be extremely frustrated if someone rushed us around like that and did that to us. We need time to prepare. Why wouldn't we give that, that same level of respect to our kiddos so that they know how to process through that? So we do countdowns, I'll let them know like, hey, buddy, in 10 minutes, it's bath time. All right, don't forget 5 minutes, it's bath time. I'll give them one more minute. And then at home, we've gotten out of the countdown phase, but we used to use the countdown phase. So it's kind of fun when we revisit it. Sometimes now it's just fun for them, but I use it in my classroom all the time. And my kids know the second that I say 10, I mean, it is like all eyes on me. They immediately draw their attention right to me. We can be on the playground. They will find me, look right at me, usually hold their hands up. And it's so cute because they'll try to be like, and, but they know what's happening. And guess what? I do a countdown from 10 because that gives them 10 more seconds to go, okay, this is happening. I'm not a big believer in 3, 2, 1. Okay, my turn. It's kind of like, what just happened? So that's what works for me. You got to find what works for you, but I love countdowns.
And I'll say also,
yes,
parents will ask about the time, and it does not matter if your kid understands time. No kid this young understands time. But when I say we're leaving in 5 minutes, they now know, okay, we're leaving soon. So it doesn't matter if you say 1 minute or 5 minutes. It's really just about, you've now given them the warning of, we're leaving your aunt's house so they can emotionally prepare themselves. And physically too, maybe they're finishing up a Lego building or something, but so much of it is that emotional regulation of, I'm not going to want to leave. So if you just spring it on me, it's going to be a meltdown. I mean, and they might still melt down when you give them the warning, but you still prepared them. And over time, the more you do that, the easier it gets for them. They're still going to have meltdowns sometimes because they're children and then they're not getting what they want, but it still helps them. And they do not need to understand the concept of time.
100%. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. Yes. So tickles we talked about earlier, very, very powerful. Here's the bath video that I mentioned, and this is the tickling part that we talked about. But this is an example of it. I think this is Gus, my youngest. I don't think you see many words, but. I've really got to work on my laugh. It's annoying.
Bath time. Time for naked baby.
So tickles are so powerful. They really are. He would just wait. And then Jason, my husband, would tickle him again. Oh, this is so exciting. So tickles are super, super awesome. But just, again, wanting to show you different ages, what it looks like at different ages, and how young you can start working on those things.
I was going to say, too, that bath time is great also because they're contained. Anytime a child is contained, you have more of their attention. They can't escape the activity. So when they're in the bathtub, when they're in the high chair, when they're in the car seat, you have their undivided attention. So those are important times to spend engaging with your child. And I even say, like, car seat, as they get older, point out whatever you see. Oh, did you see the blue car? Did you see, try not to do tablet in the car. That's one thing. It's like, there's so much language and learning that can happen in the car because you're both in there, you're both bored. And that's a great time to engage. But anytime where they for all purposes, they're restrained or they're in a confined space, it's a great time to just engage and talk about things. Also, bath time is a great time to work on body parts because they don't have clothes on. So that's a great time that we can see our arms and our legs and our fingers and our toes and talk about what all of those things are together.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, so move this up this side. Actually, Jenny, do you want to do this?
Yeah, these were, we added these and we've talked about so much of this already, but we're talking about this is the beginning stages. So when you're really starting to just begin working with your child on their joint attention, not too distracted setting. So if you're showing them I have a lot of spin toys, a lot of wind up toys, things that they can't do on their own. So they need me and we both look at it and I get overjoyed when it goes and then we do it again and again. Sometimes I have to play in a little area with kids some kids I work in the classroom. Some kids need to go to my therapy room because there are too many distractions for them. You know your kiddo best, but less is better because they don't get distracted by other things. And whatever item you're using is super exciting because it's that one thing that you've pulled apart. So, and this is, when I talk about that example, that's when you're really focusing on one toy. Again, there are many other times just entering their play and being silly with stuff they're already doing is also very appropriate. So another thing is standing or sitting away from your child, put one toy out and you hold it in a way they can see it, but they can't touch it. So, this is not a good example. This is not irresistible. Well, it might be when you're 2. Actually, I've had a lot of friends want my pen. But I have a lot of noisemakers and things that spin or things that light up. And then it's super exciting. We both look at it and we put a piece on. If it's a stacking, I have a spinny stack toy that is like the coolest thing for the kids I work with. But we look at the item and then I bring the piece and it's by my face and they have to look at it before they put it on. So there's a whole bunch of engagement that goes along with that. By itself, it looks like a toy. You just put a piece on and it winds down, but it is so much more because it is irresistible. Every kid that comes in my room wants it because it's up on the shelf and you can see it. So those things, just having that one thing out makes a huge difference because that's the one thing we're interested in. And again, if it lights up or spins or something, it's super cool. And I think number 3 is super important. If your child doesn't care about the item, it's not going to be a go-to. I work so hard in figuring out what's reinforcing to kids. And I will often hear parents say, well, they're not into anything. But that is not true. So everybody's motivated by something. It's just sometimes different. And with some kids, especially at home, here we have a lot of restrictions with food, obviously, because kids with allergies, but at home, you don't. So you might have to start with Cheez-Its. You might have to start with Goldfish crackers. You might have to start with M&Ms if that's their favorite. I mean, it's meeting your child where they're at and then finding out what they love. So my room is filled with stuff, my therapy room. And I know what my kiddos love and they don't all love the same things. So I know when I have a friend I'm working with, I'm like, oh, she's coming in. I start grabbing the things that I know she cannot resist. But I have so much stuff because the reinforcers look different for different kids that I work with. So really knowing your kid, and if I get something out, because sometimes I think it's amazing and I buy it and I bring it and I'm so excited and the kid's like, eh. And then I'm like, oh, and we just get out Play-Doh and that's super fun. Every kid loves that. So sometimes I'm excited and they're not, and it's a bummer, and that's going to happen too. You buy your kids something and they like the box better. I mean, so play with the box. They might circle back to that toy in a week or in a day, but right then go with what they're into. That's super important.
I think sometimes as parents or adults, we get trapped in this like, oh, well, it has to be a toy or it has to be this. And I mean, one of my early on kiddos that I worked with, he loved tissues, like Kleenexes. And that's what it was. And guess what? It didn't matter. Like if that's what he is interested in, then we're taking tissues and we're moving it all over the place. I'm playing peekaboo with a tissue. I'm throwing it up, watching it fall. I'm putting it on body parts. So it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't. And so I think sometimes when we move away from that, it's just, it's a little bit easier. Again, we're meeting the kiddo where they're at. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, awesome. So this was at beginning, if you're just, interacting with one toy, they play and then you could tell them my turn and you take it and then you play again, maybe walking away, but staying close to them, see if they'll approach you and come back and try to get more. And if they cry or they have inappropriate behavior, you have to tell them you can have it when you calm down. So you're waiting your kiddo out, and then noticing, notice we're not expecting communication. We're only having shared attention. So we've talked about that you don't have to be having verbal conversation that's going on. It's really that connecting and being silly and having fun with your child. And sometimes they're not gonna be as, I'm losing my words too now. So sometimes kids are easily let you have a turn and then they get it back. But some kids, especially if they've very attached to an item or they're used to having therapy, they think if they get it taken, they're never getting it back. And so I think it's so important. I teach kids, and sometimes it takes a long time before I have friends that ever want me to have my turn. Because when I try to teach them my turn, they think I'm telling them it's my turn. It's never going to be your turn again. It's my turn forever. And so it takes time. And then it's, again, super awesome when they start figuring that out and I'm able to take the item and play them. And I only keep it for a second and it's right back in their hands because I don't really need to play with it. Again, you're just doing that to engage and they're not absorbing into the toy. Because once you give it to them, if there's no way for you to enter back into the play, then there's no joint attention going on. It's them just absorbed and there's no social interaction piece once they're absorbed into the toy. So just remember, I think that it's so important. All of these things take so much time. It takes kids a lot of time to learn these skills and it's not overnight. So give yourself lots of grace as you do all of these things with your child.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the video from the very beginning where like the kiddo takes the, it was the hammer when she was hammering and she hammered her hand, just took it and was like, whoop, shutting you out and turned sideways and did his own thing. At that point, you're kind of like, oh, yeah. Well,
yeah. And things will go wrong. Things will go wrong. And we've been doing this for years. Things go wrong. And then you start over. And so it's not always pretty. That's for sure. You just keep on going. And so sometimes if I have a kiddo, I don't want to pry it out of their hands. And so if they are not giving up the item, then I just find something that's way more super amazing than the item that's in their hand. And then I've gained back control. And versus it being a battle of wills. And now he's crying and I've pried it out of his hands, which is so aggressively uncomfortable for me, even as a therapist. So I know it's harming for the child. I just let it go. And I'm like, well, I've got this super cool book. I'm going to look at it. And then they're like, oh, what's that? Oh, boom. Okay, now we're going to do this item. So because you want it to be a positive, you don't want it to be mom's taking my things, or dad's taking my things. So you can always move on and swing it back and make it positive again.
Actions are a great way to gain attention. So a lot of times our kids are movers and they like that kind of stuff. If you can stamp your feet super loud and be a dinosaur, and actions are just a great way to kind of draw kids in. Sometimes if we're looking at like a non-toy way, that would be a good idea. But okay, so here's a video of my oldest son, Graham. He thinks that he is controlling the television. And so my husband is really there with the remote, but it's amazing to watch him check in like, oh, whoa, did you see that? So that's kind of what this is. And he's telling us all about it in his gibberish way.
You snapped? Uh-oh, snap louder.
So he's wanting us to love that as much as he does. you know, so it kind of almost fits in this situation. Graham is the teacher, if you will. Like, he is loving on it and he's wanting us to join him. So that, how great is that? Like, that to be an end goal for us, you know, have our kiddos want us to meet them at their place. But and then the persistence part, you know, that's a great way when with your kiddos, if daddy wasn't fast enough with the remote, so Graham had to do it 2 or 3 times before, you know, so it's kind of building up that resilience that, like, you don't always get exactly what you want. Oh no, the toy, oh, it's not working. Hold on, let me fix this part. You're buying some time. You're buying, like, hey, you know, if when you're starting to work on that my turn, your turn, and they need it back in a second, that's a great way to kind of extend the time where they can see, like, okay, I'm okay if I don't instantly have it back. I'm okay if this is happening. So it builds up a little bit of resilience too with kiddos. So, okay, technology. So Jenny had touched on technology earlier. Technology is so hard because it is one of those things. Our kiddos totally can learn a lot of stuff on a tablet. And so when being a parent, I get it. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh man, my car ride is going to be so much better if you are just on your tablet during this time. So just be mindful. Just be mindful that when you're giving them the tablet, you are handing over and saying, I'm expecting no social interaction from you. So go into it just knowing that. Because nothing needs to happen there. The only thing that could happen is if it freezes up and they need help and they need you to fix it. That's about as much as you're going to get out of it. So technology, yes, we all use it in our lives. We do want to make sure we are limiting screen time just because it literally is a disconnect. So they do not need another person to help them navigate, like, do what they're trying to do, share that experience. They don't really care about that. So they do not need you. And there's no attempt at social exchanges or sharing experiences at all. Studies have shown that screen time shortens a child's attention span. That is huge. It truly does. Like, if you really think about that, like this next one kind of talks about, first of all, that instant gratification. There is nothing that I can do that is going to be as fast as a tablet. Like, it just isn't. The amount of time it takes me to hand you something, I could be ready to go, ready to hand you something. I still am not going to be as fast as a tablet. So it's building up this, like, oh, I have to have it right now. But the attention span, a tablet, all the colors and the flashes of light and things, that the ever-changing part of what's happening on a tablet, their attention span definitely shortens that. The studies literally show you kiddos' brains and how they're developing and how they look different with that screen time. Sleep is a huge one. Definitely, we've already done a sleep parent group, so please check that out if sleep is troubling. Sleep's a hard one to get past. So there are a lot of great strategies on that, but a tablet and technology will definitely be brought up during the sleep parent group. So it affects their ability to communicate effectively with adults and peers because they don't need to. They have no need to do any of those things. So their ability to build and maintain relationships, and then affecting and altering their emotions too. So just be very cognizant. If it is something where you are doing, if you're deciding that, hey, you know what, my kid is earning tablet time, then try to be a part of that tablet time. You know, if that's what's right for your family, because that's what it's all about, is everybody's deciding what's right for their family. So if that is, then at least try to be a part of what's happening. Have them show you the things that they're doing. Try to make it more purposeful, but definitely limit it as much as possible. So, okay. So main highlights: slow down and enjoy the moments with your child, as little or big as they are. So it's okay to wait them out and always expect more. Just remember that this takes time and practice. And then joint attention is a precursor for effective communication, but development overall. It just is. So here is a little video. Oh, wait.
Only going to work, obviously, if you're sitting across from your child.
So this one,
That's how you're going to get that engagement. Mamas.
This one, actually, I don't think I'm going to put it on here. This is a video. The presentation has a link that you guys can watch. We put it in there because it's super, super good. Wonderful information. It's 8 minutes long. So, but it'll be in there, and that way you can click on it. Addie will put all the notes and everything into the Google form. So be sure to download those. And right now I don't have my email address on there too. So we'll put our email addresses on there just in case you have questions and you need more resources, things like that. But so be sure to check this video out. It's really great, but it is lengthy. So, okay, here are some great resources that we've collected over the years. So same thing, all of those are links that you can click on, download, whatever you need to do, share them with your family, share them with, if we're looking at a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, it's hard to educate your entire family. You're the one living with the kiddo who does or exhibits behaviors or mannerisms that are similar to kiddos on the spectrum. So, but grandmas and grandpas, aunts and uncles, things like that that are not around your kiddo all the time, share resources, share information, because information is always great. Somebody having that knowledge and will help relationships between adults, but then also relationships with the kiddo so that they know how to connect with your kiddo as well. So anyway, be sure to check out these resources. Like I said, we will throw our email addresses on here. Jenny, anything else you can think of?
Nope, I think that's it. I think the email is a great way to contact either one of us. If you have any questions, we're both super passionate about what we do, and always open to any questions or helping any family that needs any sort of guidance or ideas or anything like that. We're great, open to that. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And yeah, thanks so much. Bye.